Good day to all learners and welcome to today's session. Today I am guiding us through KMO6 KTO5, which focuses on knowledge management. By the end of this session, you and I will have a clear understanding and practical understanding of 6 areas. The first area is Introduction and Principles of Knowledge Management. 2. KM Technologies and Systems, including management's information systems and electronic security and protection. 3. Knowledge capture with tacit and explicit knowledge. 4. Knowledge sharing using repositories and collaboration approaches. 5. Knowledge discovery using search, analytics, and insights. 6. KM practices with processes and governance. Before we begin, I set expectations for value. Good KM reduces repeated mistakes, shortens onboarding, improves change over time, and prevents quality escapes. I will connect each topic to one measurable outcome so that we can prove value and be ready to speak on it in assessments. With that destination set, I begin with the foundation. What is KM and the principles that make it work? I begin with the foundation. Let's start. When I say knowledge management, I mean the set of principles and methods that help us create, capture, organize, share, discover, and apply knowledge so that safety, quality, delivery, cost, and morale improve. In our plant, KM is not a separate project. It is the way we make yesterday's learning available to the point of work today. We apply KM through simple, repeatable processes and principles. I focus on usefulness at the point of work, not on storing for storage sake. A standardized format so that anyone can find and reuse information. Keep ownership clear so that content stays current. I make feedback loops short so that we correct errors quickly. I align every KM activity to business objectives so that the effort is worth it. A practical definition helps me teach the team. Data are raw facts. Information is data in context. And knowledge is information applied with experience and judgment. My goal is to move important information into usable knowledge at the workstation through a work instruction, a checklist, a short video, or one-point lesson. I use a simple maturity lens to guide improvement. Level 1 is ad hoc knowledge in people's heads. Level 2 is basic documentation scattered in folders. Level 3 is a shared repository with version control and owners. Level 4 is routine capture with review using matrix. Level 5 is continuous improvement where lessons are embedded into daily work and analytics drive updates. I state where we are and set one step-up goal each quarter. I also draw on a simple behavior model. People adapt KM when content is useful, easy to find and recognized. I remove friction, make it rewarding, and make it expected. With principles clear, I now anchor the tools, technologies, and systems that make KM visible and secure. Let's take a look at KM technologies and systems, including management information systems, security, and protection. Technologies are enablers. I use a simple stack: capture tools, repositories, collaboration tools, and discovery tools. The Learner Guide highlights management information systems and electronic security and protection. So I make sure my systems deliver information to the right people and protect it from loss or misuse. Now let's move on to management information systems. I ensure our management information systems provide timely, accurate, and relevant production data, downtime, scrap, throughput, and safety incidents. I make those reports consistent and easy to interpret so that supervisors can act. I avoid data dumps and aim for one-page, action-orientated view. I check data quality using 5 simple dimensions. 1. Accuracy. 2. Completeness. 3. Timeliness. 4. Consistency and uniqueness. If one dimension fails, I fix the capture point or the integration rule. Now let's take a look at security and protection. I classify information by sensitivity. I store controlled documents like approved work instructions in an authorized repository with version control. I restrict edit rights with role-based access and least privilege principles. I require approvals for change and keep an audit trail of who changed what and when. I back up repositories, define recovery points and recovery time objectives, and test restores quarterly. I protect access with strong authentication, encrypt data in transit, and rest where supported, and train the team on basic cyber hygiene, unique passwords, awareness, and safe use of removable media. I set retention periods for obsolete documents and make sure personal data and supplier priority information are only shared on a need-to-know basis. Tools do not help if we do not capture knowledge in a way that others can use. Now let's move on to the next slide, which is knowledge capture. I capture explicit knowledge, the knowledge we can write down in standard formats. Work instructions, one-point lessons, checklists, process flow maps, and A3s. I keep each item short, visual where possible, and tied to a process owner. I include revision dates and effectivity. Tactic knowledge is what experienced people carry in their heads. Context, judgment, and tricks of the trade. I draw it out through structured conversations and observation. Short interviews, after action reviews, and task walkthroughs with the most experienced operator. I convert that toxic knowledge into explicit artifacts where it helps, like troubleshooting guide or a quick video captured on a phone and stored in the repository next to the relevant instruction. The learner guide emphasizes that KM capture includes tactic knowledge, so I make this deliberate. I capture with triggers, not only with projects. Triggers include new equipment, quality, escapes, safety incidents, supplier changes, and staffing changes. When any of these happen, I schedule a capture step as part of the change process. I make capture predictable with short checklists. Define the purpose, identify the subject matter expert, pick a capture method, whether it be interview, observation, or screen recording. Agree on a template, collect photos or clips with consent, draft and preview, publish with metadata, and set a review date. I respect privacy and confidentiality and avoid names and examples unless necessary for training. Once we capture, we must make knowledge easy to find and share. I now turn to sharing. Let's take a look. Shares are our organized libraries. I keep one authoritative source for controlled documents and a clearly labeled space for working notes. I use a simple shared taxonomy, which is process area, line, workstation, then document type. I avoid personal folders for shared content, and I prohibit storing critical instructions only on paper at the station without a master copy. Collaboration makes knowledge live. I run short, structured reviews where teams present an improvement, the problem definition, the change, and the proof of effect. Capture those slides or notes and file them so the next team can reuse the idea. The learner guide calls for knowledge sharing systems, repositories, and collaboration. I reduce friction to share. I provide templates and clear naming conventions. I keep permissions simple and make searching reliable by using consistent titles and tags. I encourage communities of practice, small cross-shift groups who own a topic like changeovers or safety. They meet briefly, share one session, and post an artifact. I make peer review of key documents a habit so that errors are caught early and ownership is shared. Good repositories matter only if people can find insights quickly. I now shift to discovery. Let's take a look at knowledge discovery. Discovery is how we turn stored information into decisions. I make search work by standardizing names and adding a few agreed tags on each item: process, equipment, product family, and problem type. I avoid jargon that only one team understands. Analytics converts data into insight. I build simple dashboards showing trends, scrap per 1,000 units, mean time between failures, changeover duration, and near miss frequency. And I link each trend to the relevant work instruction or CAPA so that the viewer can act. I prioritize a small set of reliable metrics over a set of noisy numbers. The KTO5 scope explicitly lists search, analytics, and insights under discovery, so each time I teach the team how to use these daily. I make search smarter with synonyms, common misspells, and Boolean operators when the tool supports them. I measure search effectiveness by using two indicators. One, search to find ratio, and two, time to first answer. If either slips, I improve titles, tags, or content. I distinguish analytics types so that I can pick the right one: descriptive, diagnostic, predictive, and prescriptive. Even a simple line chart with a control limit can move us from descriptive to diagnostic by highlighting outliers and shifts. With capture, sharing, and discovery in place, I systemize the work so that it survives changes in people and priorities. I now cover KM practices and governance. Let's go. KM processes define how we create, approve, publish, use, review, and retire knowledge objects. I keep the process light but disciplined. I define roles: content owner, approver, reviewer, and methods. I define review cycles: critical instructions reviewed at least annually, others on a 2-year cycle. I require evidence to the latest version in use at the station, and I measure two things: one, content freshness, and two, content usage. Governance sets expectations and checks. I make a short KM policy that explains scope, roles, classification, version control, and compliance. I align KM with safety, quality, and training so that we speak one language and avoid duplicate systems. The learner guide groups these under KM practices. The summative assessment expects you to discuss and explain KM practices, so I prepare you to describe both process and governance. It creates a simple RACI so ownership is explicit. For each knowledge object, we note who is responsible for updates, who approves, who must be consulted, and who must be informed. We schedule a quarterly KM review where we report on freshness, usage, top searches with no results, and the top 5 lessons embedded into standards. We agree the next quarter's priorities. To make these sections real, I run a single scenario that touches all 6 areas end to end. Let's take a look at our integrated scenario. 1. Context. We commissioned a new packaging line last month. Scrap is higher than expected and changeovers exceed the target by 15 minutes. 2. Principles. We framed the goal: make yesterday's learning available today at the station. I agree that we will capture only what helps the next shift, and we will keep each item short. 3. Technologies. I set up a shared team space with control folder for standards and a working folder for notes. I add a dashboard tile for changeover time and a scrap trend. I restrict editing of work instructions to owners and approvers. 4. Capture. I run a 20-minute after-action review with the most experienced operator after each changeover for 3 days. We record the steps that took longest and the small tricks that reduced time. We create 1-point lesson with photos for 2 critical adjustments. 5. Sharing. I publish the updated changeover instruction and the 1-point lesson in the repository. I point the link in the team channel and add the document code to the 1-line side QR label. 6. Discovery. I check the scrap and changeover trends daily and link spikes to notes from the changeovers. I search for similar issues on the older line and reuse an idea, labeling clamps by numbers to prevent mix-ups. 7. Practices and governance. I assign the content owner, set the next review date, and close the trial with brief learning notes. I verify that the current version is at the station and remove outdated printouts. 8. Outcome. Changeover time drops by 12 minutes within a week, and scrap falls as the team applies the 1-point lesson. The knowledge objects are now part of daily work, not a file nobody reads. 9. Extra step. I run a 10-minute knowledge quiz in the next shift meeting, locate the latest changeover instruction, scan the QR, and explain the 2 adjustments from the 1-point lesson. This reinforces users and gives me a real adoption measure. We now link today's content to your assessments and the exact outcomes we targeted so you are ready for class tests and ISA. Let's take a look at formative coverage. Be ready to answer the KTO5 questions on the 3 main areas of KM. What is a KM system? What knowledge capture is? What tactic knowledge is? How discovery systems improve decision-making, and the responsibilities of a KM owner. Practice short plain language definitions and add 1 plant example and 1 control for each answer. Now, summative coverage. Expect to discuss and explain KM technologies and systems, capture, sharing and discovery systems, and KM practices. Structure answers as definition, method, or process, example with 1 number, governance, or control. And now, pattern. For technologies and systems, give 1 example of a dashboard you would use and state 1 protection control. For capture, define tactic versus explicit and give 1 trigger for capture. For sharing, describe your reciprocity structure and naming convention. For discovery, show 1 metric trend and how you would link it to actions. For practices, explain roles and review cycle. ISA technique. Use short structured paragraphs, open with the definition in your own words, then describe exactly what you would do on your line. Add 1 number from your plant and close with control or governance elements that keeps it working. We have now reached the end of our session. Let's take a look at everything that we've covered in the session so far. Today we built a practical map of knowledge management. We covered KM principles, enabling technologies and systems with MIS and protection, methods for capturing tactic and explicit knowledge, approaches to sharing through repositories and collaboration, discovery using search and analytics, and KM practices with processes and governance. This aligns to the KTO5 structure and prepares you for the formative, summative, and ISA requirements. My ask for the next shift is simple. Choose 1 recurring problem on your line, capture 1 lesson as 1-point lesson with a photo, publish it in the repository with a clear name and owner, and add a QR label at the station. Track the relevant metric for a week and bring the before and after to our next session. Thank you for your attention and participation today. See you at the next session.